Hi, friends. Okay, so I am so excited about this chat. Today I chatted with my friend Kim Crossman. Kim is an incredible actress. She's been in countless movies and TV shows. She's very well known in New Zealand. She's also an incredible content creator and hostess. Kim is like such a beautiful, beautiful person inside and out. Kim and I met earlier this year at the gym we go to called Training Mate, and it was a very quick and fast and furious friendship. She's the kind of person who is there for you in your low moment and will celebrate you in your high moment. She's just like a lovely person who has so much beautiful wisdom and insight. She also has a podcast called Pretty Depressed. I would definitely check that out. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear what she has to say about how she takes care of herself when things aren't going her way and her mindset about success and finding her way on this journey when it goes like this all the time. So without further ado, here's my chat with the beautiful Kim Crossman. Yay! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be chatting with you today.
Thank you for having me. I do want to preface this interview by saying that I don't know if you can see, but there are men on the roof. So if one of them joins us through the ceiling, as which it sounds like at times,
Now we know.
now we
Now
know.
we know.
So now we know. We're just rolling with it. That's all part of what we do in this
Part of
business.
the process. So for everyone tuning in, this is Kim Crossman. She is a fabulous actress, creator, host, and just human. But I'm not going to talk too much about you. I would love for you to like introduce yourself in your own words and talk to us about how you started acting.
Sure. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. You are my favorite human that I've met in the last year, and you bring so much joy and delight into my life. So thank you so much.
Me
And
too.
you're like my go-to person when things in this business aren't going great as well. I feel like we're like a good little team of like, it'll be okay.
It's
So
gonna be okay. We're gonna survive.
everything will be okay. Which you definitely need some cheerleaders in this biz. So I started, I guess my entry into kind of the entertainment business is that my mother is a ballet teacher and I grew up dancing and doing cheer and I just adored performing. I dive straight into it. I have depression and anxiety, and I feel like when you find something that allows you to have that state of flow, especially if you have a busy brain, something that feels calm, and I guess I have an addiction to that moment between action and cut where usually I have 1,000 tabs open in my brain, and but for some reason, I guess athletes probably get this if they're running a race, their mind goes quiet. For me, when between action and cut is the only time I'm like super hyper present, unless I'm doing a horrible job, then I am totally in my head. But yeah, I kind of found and fell in love with that element of performing, whether you're on stage or dancing, and just really wanted to get into acting. My mother was paying a small fortune to send me to a private girls' school, so I wasn't allowed to audition. Just because it would take time out of class, but I ended up having quite a bad accident in cheerleading, dislocating my elbow, and she's like, okay, fine, you can audition. Auditioned for a movie called Fool's Gold with Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson, and thought I did quite well. And then my second interview was for a show called Shortland Street, which is a loosely based medical drama, aka a soap opera in New Zealand.
And it's
And
like a really big show in New Zealand. If you
it
don't know, this is the show.
yeah, and it was such a dream. So I ended up working on that for like 7 years, and then popping over here to America.
Okay, so pause. So
Yes.
your second audition for
Hmm.
Shortland Street when you were 16,
15, yeah.
15, you got, and you
Mhm.
stayed on that show for 7 years.
I did. And thank you. I, looking back at that first year, I wasn't acting. I was waiting until people stopped talking, then I said my line. It was not the world's greatest, but I will say,
Well, you
like,
were 15.
I was enthusiastic, but I didn't have any on-set experience. I was really green. But that's a kind of, is it the word like crucifixion by fire, like learning on the job was tough because I got a lot of real-time feedback of not being very good initially. And it wasn't that I didn't have the ability to be good. It was just that I was so nervous and it was so fast. You're shooting a whole episode of television a day. So I developed this, like, being really hard on myself, but also very hungry. Fortunately, the man who played my father was actually an acting teacher at the time as well, so he really helped me, and I'll be forever grateful for that. Because again, it wasn't about my lack of ability to be good or desire. It was just the situation I was in early was really hard. And I will say to any actors, like, you really have to be match fit, because I was lucky I had signed a year contract. But a lot of times, if you show up on set and you are green or not good, that doesn't always mean that you get to stick around. So
Or they might keep you in and then you don't end up in the cut. And
yeah,
oh,
totally. And that's not always the reason people get cut. There's many different reasons. But I was lucky that I had a little bit of grace and a little, they were very nurturing to me early on, so that I could do well and do better, and had a little bit of breathing room to not sink. And when I was able to swim. So yeah.
yeah, totally. I mean, there's so much in here, like
Okay.
so much.
Dive in wherever you shall like.
I mean, I love that you talk about like the grace it takes, because like we're humans, like we do not come out perfect. And like this is a craft that
Yeah.
we work on and develop. And like it sounds like you had like a lot of positive in and around like, maybe some like harder moments of like really direct feedback, but like how lucky that you were in an environment where you were nurtured and
Yeah.
helped.
I do think too, like, no one is going to critique me harder than myself. And I know that not everybody possesses that quality. I think it is, sort of one of those unique things to overachievers and people pleasers and people with perfectionist tendencies. So I, even an example in my acting class on Monday, so, fast forward 16 years, I was super tired, but they had a guest in the class, a guest who has written a script that's been picked up, and I really wanted to do a great job because she was coming in, and I was really tired. I was not 110% prepared, but I tossed back and forth whether I should do the class or not, because I knew I wasn't going to be at 110. I made the decision to do the class, and I didn't do a great job. I did an okay job, but these are the kind of opportunities that if you do a great job, good things can happen from it. And so it was, I share that to know that, you still fail even if you've been doing this for a long time. And other people may not see that as a failure, but I do, because I know I wasn't at 110%, and I should have listen to my body, listen to my heart, and go like, I think that I'm going to do more damage than good by taking part. I should have just come in and read for people. But yeah, so I'm still learning, and you're still kind of find what works and reading material. And yeah, I guess as an artist, it's an ever growing process, which is not in my nature. I want to be good at everything immediately. So it's
I resonate with that.
Yeah,
I also want to like come out and be like a 10 all
yes,
the time and like get very frustrated when it's not.
So what do you do? What do you do if you put yourself in a situation where you're like, I know I'm not doing my best work? Do you spiral, or do you pause, or how do you
Well,
kind of?
I do both. I have found that like I definitely like will be thinking I'm present, and then like a thought will get in my head and suddenly I am like so in my head and spiraling, and it's like I am actively working on breathing. I
Okay.
find like remembering to breathe actually like helps me come back to my body and get out of my mind.
Yeah.
And the only way to really do that is to take a pause. Like the other day, my husband and I, he was helping me with an audition, and I had it like very like dissected, and I knew what I wanted to do. My husband's a director, and he had like very different opinions on how the scene should go. And generally, Justin is right.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I was feeling like very attached to what I had come up with, and I was getting really in my head getting this like feedback like, oh, I think you should do it different. And I was like, but I didn't plan it that way, like so I
Mm-hmm.
literally like walked into the other room and like did 5 minutes of breathing, and I was like, okay, let's just try this again. I'm gonna let
Yeah.
it all go and take a beat instead of like spiraling like I did it wrong, like I read the script wrong, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So
That is tough though. Getting feedback when you're not totally agreeing with it it is tough.
yeah.
I always find that, like, sometimes I always take a direction, but then sometimes if you're in the privileged position of doing a self-tape, it's like, okay, you can at least do it and try it and then give another one a go. It is just hard though when you're in a room, or had an experience of doing an audition recently, and it was on Zoom, and the one of the people hadn't turned their camera off, and I had already started, and so I couldn't pin my reader, and so I was just kind of reading to the camera but watching someone who's kind of was not really into it. Like, again, should have just gone like, oh hey, I'm going to start again, I've just got, and take control of the situation. But I think sometimes as actors, and especially when we want the job, or we want to impress, or we want to seem like we've got our stuff together, like we don't always set ourselves up for success. I was like, oh, I've already started, so
Yeah. And I think as actors, we all feel like a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like this like pressure, like, okay, it's go time. And
yeah,
like we were talking about before, I have to be perfect. And
yeah.
back when in rooms were still a thing, it took me years to remember like I can start when I want to start. Like they don't
Mhm.
have to say, okay, go. And then I'm
Mhm.
okay, go. Like taking that beat is
Yeah.
like kind of hard. And it's sort of the same in this Zoom. Like you needed to take a beat and get yourself set up for performing the way you want to. But in the moment, you're just like, nah.
Yeah, it's all this like anxiety and tension. Sorry, it's loud for a second. Yeah, it's
That's okay.
it's it's tough, but yeah, I share that to encourage people to, yeah, like set yourself up for success. I think it's like when you're a people pleaser as well, you do want to do everything right the first time, and like, oh, look how good I did, even though, and it's like, well, they don't know that I can't see the reader, so that's my own shit. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's like part of your job as an actor, right? Is like knowing your own shit. And like,
yeah.
this is something that gets in my way. I've experienced this time and time again. What am I going to do to get over this thing that is blocking me from doing my best work? Right.
Speaking of blocks, how's the artist's way going?
Oh, so I am working through Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way right now. It's been like so beautiful for me. I'm on week 8. It's
Oh
really
my gosh, has
good.
it been 8 weeks?
Yeah, technically 9 because I had to take a week off from it.
Sure. Yeah.
But this week is interesting. It is a week where we're going to be looking at jealousy. And
Tag.
I've said it before, I will say it again. Jealousy is my ugliest quality. Like,
Okay.
I am a jealous girly, not cute.
That's fine.
And
Well, kudos for acknowledging it. Most of us would be like, I'm not jealous. I'm not.
no, I'm like, that girl is skinnier than me. I'm jealous of her. That girl has better hair than me. I'm jealous of her. Like,
Well, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone with better hair than you, my friend. But yes, sure.
thank you. But it's been interesting. Like, so far I found the artist way to be like so helpful in like figuring out like, oh, what has been like in my way for literally years? Like, what have I been holding on to?
Mm,
And this is something that I'm like, oh, this is gonna be icky to like
mm.
really get to the core of it. Cause what I'm finding is like a lot of this stuff means I need to take actions that I have not been taking. Like,
Okay.
um, for me, like if I look at like another actress who is like a very similar type to me,
Hmm.
and it's like, okay, I'm jealous because she's getting opportunities I'm not getting.
Hmm.
The action is like, okay, these are the 20 things you've done. You need to try 20 more. Like you can't just like rest your laurels on, well, I did a web series and I'm auditioning and like
Mm.
there's more we can be doing and we need to be like proactive in owning that.
Yeah, that is tough. It is also tough. I don't know if it's a jealousy thing, but when people seem to be doing well in terms of my definition of success, who are like not hard workers, or by my definition not hard workers, but by my definition getting the success. And I say by my definition because I hang my hat on being a hard worker and what that means and the intensity level of it. And so I'm like, well, then I should get result by the universe's, laws. So yeah, I think that's where I struggle. If I feel like people's energy or effort in reaps rewards that I want, and it's not comparable to my energy. Does that make sense? Which is
Totally.
totally unhealthy as well. Like it's like there's enough
Well,
for everyone. It's just, yeah, I tend
no,
to
I totally get that
be pretty
because,
shitty about
well,
that.
that's what's so hard about this industry is like hard work is not necessarily like linear, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Like it's not like a normal job where you work hard and you get a promotion and then you like change title and you get a raise and like you keep getting rewarded
Mm-hmm.
for your hard work and the person who didn't work as hard as you isn't getting the promotion.
Hmm.
But acting is not like that.
No, I
Oh,
wish. Otherwise, you and I'd be like,
oh,
cover
I'd
me in
have an
glue, let me
Oscar by
roll in my
now.
money in jobs. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
so it's a challenge. Okay, so this is kind of like one of my questions that I had prepped for you, and we can kind of jump
Oh,
to it. We'll bop around a little, but like for you, you are, if people don't know who you are, they should.
oh,
Kim is very successful. And I guess I'm curious, like, how do you like personally, like, what is the work for you when things aren't going your way? Or let's say, like, hypothetically, you were up for a job that you didn't get. Like, what do you do to take care of
so
your?
hypotheticals and that. uh, Yeah, so I'm actually in therapy with that recently. This year has been kind of a season of disappointments back to back. It may not look like that from the outside because I've also had a lot of cool opportunities, but the opportunities that I've wanted, or the results that I've wanted, or some of the jobs that I've loved that I've been let go from, or that have ended, or contracts have ended, um, resulted in a really weird climate for me at the beginning of the year where some shows I were on were coming out. So people always think like, "Oh, you're so busy," mixed with kind of being and living alone for an extended period of time by myself, mixed with having quite a few what I call like my money jobs not coming around again or being let go. And so I found myself recently in a situation where I was felt like I had taken 10 steps back and I was back to where I was, kind of hand to mouth in terms of worrying about rent. And I felt so much pride in the last few years, feeling like I'd graduated that life chapter. And to find myself back there again, it was a big ego knock for me. I felt really disappointed in myself. Again, these were all external factors, but that's what I was feeling. Yeah, I guess worried about a pending writer's strike, feeling like there won't be opportunity, and feeling a little bit like an idiot. Like I've put all my eggs in this basket. Maybe that was a dumb idea. I don't really believe that, but that was kind of my psyche. And then having sort of a few opportunities come about, getting far and feeling like I need the job and then not getting it. So then kind of the floor opening up a little bit, finding some new levels of the basement that I hadn't been to in a while. So what I did do was distraction has to be my first go-to because if and I know you had an experience like this too. It's like you get some bad news or something bad happens. Like I have to learn to remove myself and go and distract. So that to me has been Training Mate, where we met, which was going to the gym, moving my body and just kind of like being in a different physical space. Because I know if I sit here in this corner of the couch where I've spent many hours of my life, I will not be in a good place in 30 minutes time. So I needed to distraction as my first thing, having some breaths, allowing myself to feel shitty for a little bit. I grew up, with the idea of shower and start again, which is something bad happens, quick moving on, and yep, shit to do. Uh, and that meant I did rob myself of allowing some feelings, and it's okay to feel shitty or disappointed. How long you wallow in that is can be problematic, but allowing to take some time and having again that word a bit of grace, like yeah, that is heartbreaking when you have put a lot of time and effort into something and finances and things don't like that's okay to feel sad about that.
Because it's
um
so real.
yeah.
Like, this is your life,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like, I have a thing where it's kind of extended, but my thing used to be like, you have 24 hours to be like as sad and as mopey as you want to be.
Right.
But I've found it actually takes me a little longer to like allow myself to go there.
Yeah,
So I've
sure.
kind of turned it into like 36 hours.
Right. Love that.
And then after that, it's sort of like, okay, we got to shower and wash it off and like
Yeah.
go forward. But
Yeah.
I think you're right. Like feelings are feelings, whether
Mhm.
like they feel rational or not, like you are feeling them.
Yeah.
And in a business where your job is to emote
Yes. Yes.
emotions,
We have to be aware
we
of
have
those.
to know what those feelings
Yeah.
are and know how to embrace them and then how
Mm.
to like rise out of them too.
Hmm.
I
I
don't want
will
to say
also
like
say
make them go away, but
no.
like how do we like pull out, you know?
I think too, it is also important to be very particular about who you seek counsel from when you're not in a good space. Because I think if you have a friend who's an actor, they'll be able to relate, which I think is a real gift, something we have been able to share as well. Um, Whereas a lot of times, especially family members, like they don't want you to feel shitty. So, they'll say things like come home or, like whatever it might be with all the best intentions that might actually not be the best advice or the thing you want to hear as an artist or a creative. Giving up is sometimes how that can be perceived. So I would say that would probably be my advice of have some grace, distract, have some grace, allow you to feel, put a time limit on it. And, that can obviously be fluid. And then, yeah, I guess the only real thing to do after that, keep moving forward, whatever that means. Write something, create something, get shitty and write an angry sketch, or I don't know, whatever that might be. But yeah,
Yeah.
as long as you're moving forward, I feel like I during this season watched a lot of documentaries about elite athletes. Now, don't worry, I don't consider myself an elite athlete, but what I liked was a lot of these documentaries, like Drive to Survive or Swing, something rather the golf one. You're dealing with, elite athletes who have all this pressure on the world and they're not performing to the ability they should be, and there's millions and millions of dollars at stake, so you can feel at least like, well, at least that's not my situation. But kind of how they come out of it and how they then just have to at some point brush it off, keep moving forward. And by attaching their identity to those failures, like you see it, then they keep in that pattern. So I found that really helpful, kind of seeing other people deal with disappointment and yeah, and how they change the temperature, change the rhythm to like go back to a sort of forward momentum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I think that's also like such a beautiful reminder, like at any level of success in any business, there is disappointment,
Hmm.
like,
Yeah, you got to get comfortable with it.
yeah,
As
because
long as
like,
you're learning from it,
yeah,
yeah, it's good. But it can be it's hard because it's always easier to speak of disappointment in hindsight if you're not in a season of disappointment, and then if you're in a season of disappointment, it's like really hard to be positive as well. So I get that. I'm not taking away from anyone's current chapter, but yeah, if you want it, you got to find some magic potion to get yourself back to a place of like loving it. And I think you and I have gone through that this year of like having to force ourselves in a way to find different ways to fall in love with things that are causing you pain. Like it is like
totally.
a bad relationship, you
Yeah.
know?
The thing I'm finding too, and this is with age, like I have been an actress since I was 5 years old. Like this is like so what I wrap my identity into.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to not like let it be the only thing that like makes me happy in
Yeah.
some ways. Like,
How's that going?
well, it's good. Like, it's
Okay,
so
good.
interesting. It's like, oh yeah, like I also love going to the beach and I also love like singing karaoke with my girlfriends and I also love not doing anything acting related and like
Mhm.
laying and reading a book. I've been going to the library a lot again lately.
Oh, I love this about you.
And it's like, oh yeah, I'm kind of a bookworm. And like that is also part of me. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, I'm just trying to be like, that's one part. There's like lots of other parts. And like maybe we don't need to focus so hard every minute of the day on like this one part that
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing happening. So what do I do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, strangling it. That's a I'm so prone to strangling things.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, I history has told me as soon as I leave LA or I go and do something else or go kayaking with you, like that's when an audition comes in, or it's not when I'm like, I'm ready.
Did
Yeah.
anyone email in the last five
Yeah.
minutes?
A bit of refresh. Oh, that's strange. Okay, just check that again. Yeah.
Try it
So
again. Clearly, my
not that
internet's
I
not
need to,
working.
yeah, not that I need to be out doing stuff all the time, but yeah, just like to not stop living. And I do struggle with that as a very intense person who's like, but I don't want to take my eye off the prize.
I
I've got
know,
every
it's
quote under the sun to
hard.
justify my behavior. But yeah, it's allowing, knowing that rest is important, knowing that experience is, what adds to you being a better actress. And so just kind of finding that balance is, I'm still working on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's like an ever evolving journey.
Hmm.
Okay. I want to piggyback like backwards a
That's
little bit.
fine. Great.
Can you talk to us about how you found yourself in Los Angeles? Like what brought you here?
Yeah, so I did a hosting job for Nickelodeon in 2010 for the Kids' Choice Awards. So I got kind of picked to come over and interview people from Big Time Rush and Justin Bieber, who'd just broken out, and Will Smith and Jaden Smith for Karate Kid. And so it was my first, I'd come to LA with family once before, but this was my first time like working here for Nickelodeon. And I loved it. I was used to get like teased in my youth of being like, oh, you have ADD, which now in 2023 is not something people get teased about, and we know a lot more about it. But I was just a very intense female, like quite loud, and just really not really know how to interact with boys coming from it. So that would be like, oh my God, like she has ADD. So I was just a little bit more heightened in my energy and probably my toxic positivity at the time. So I think coming here and finding Americans and speaking to, I'll say kids, but people my own age on these Nickelodeon shows, I was like, oh my gosh, these are my people. Like
You're just like me.
totally. And I really felt a sense of camaraderie. I was like, this is like home. This is what I want. Like people who are intense, who are like, I can do a handstand, I can do this. Like, and I was like, yeah, that's awesome. And I just freaking loved it. And when I got home, I was like, I want to be there. Like that's where I need to be, like on those kind of shows, Nickelodeon show, that are larger than life. And
Yeah.
I just really wanted to do that. So it sort of took a while to kind of figure visas out. And obviously I was working on a show at the time. So kind of how to like wrap out that contract and get written out, because my mother, I'm very blessed. I have two creative birth parents, and my stepdad's a creative as well. So I'm grateful for that, because they've never pushed me into anything, in the sense of they've let me dream really big, and they're like, well, if you don't go, will you wonder what if? And I was like, of course I will. So I think it's a great thing about being younger, and I try to keep this alive in me as I'm getting older too, just the idea of possibility rather and love, rather than making decisions out of fear, being like, what could happen rather than what could go wrong. I really do try and hold on to that, because that was my favorite thing about myself when I was younger. It's like, it's like that question of like, what do you want to be when we grow up? Or what do you want to be? It's like, I still want to ask myself that question. I still have those hopes. And I think that's one of the qualities I like about myself. And I know you have that too. So yeah, that was kind of like what started the process of them sort of coming out here.
Yeah. I think as we get older, it's actually more important to continue asking that question because
Mhm.
life just gets more complicated every single year. Like,
Yeah.
I'm married now and I have a dog now, and you have a partner across the world. Like,
Hmm.
there's these added things. And I think it's really important to keep coming back and being like, okay,
Hmm.
who do I want to be? What's my big dream that I'm like, there's a voice in my head telling me like it's not possible or it's out of reach, Like it's important to hold on to these like childlike qualities.
Which I know you'll know about from Doing the Artist Way. I do want to know, and I know our time is limited, but what is your favorite thing about being an actress,
Oh my gosh.
or one of your favorite things?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's like so many things. I feel like there's like so many answers to this. I love the people that I'm like
Yeah,
around all
that's
the
cool.
time, much like you. I felt for a long time, like I was perceived as like, Allie is so much. She's always singing and doing cartwheels and she's just so extra. And
Mm-hmm.
like by my junior year of high school, I like taught myself to be cool, which meant like
Yeah.
tone it the
Mm.
down, tone it down, girl. And I felt like I kind of like allowed myself to unlearn that when I finally got to LA because it was like, oh, it's like come one, come all here. Like we're all a little kooky, you know?
Yeah.
So I love the people I get to work with in this industry and meet, and I love the work. Like
Mm.
I really love it. The last movie I did, I remember like laying in my backyard. I memorized the whole script before we went to day one, which I hadn't done before for a feature. Like, and I don't know why, but this one I like knew everyone's lines backwards and forwards before we even got to the first day of set.
Good.
And that was so fun because it was like, oh, I just feel like I'm really like, I like living in it, you know, like making a home for myself. I wouldn't say I'm a method actor, but like I definitely take on qualities of like who I think the character is that I'm working on.
I think that's part of the fun. Like I love that too. So a couple of roles I've done in the last year where it's like, yeah, like when the character feels so different to me, I'm like, oh yeah, what does she listen to? And then making a
Yeah.
playlist that I could listen to. So it's like, I'm like you, we're very extra, we're very hard out, but I love that. That
Yeah.
is probably one of my favorite things. And the hang, like getting to meet cool people, interesting folk, and
Who I
just hanging
learn
out with
from too, you know, like I just pick up
them.
like so many interesting things from everyone I interact with. It's such a magical business. But it's
Yeah.
not always like happening, you know, like we kind of talked about this earlier, but like this is sort of like a personal question, but like how is it going for you right now? Like I feel like it's really slow in LA right now.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because I always try not to, I mean, it is a choice, but I try not to give over to the status quo. Like every time I look at Deadline, it's all like, whoa, like, not a good time. And, a lot of casting people on Instagram, like what to do during this lull. And it's like, oh man, like, I don't know if I try not to read too much into that because that sort of feeds my mind is negatively swung that I have to work to remain positive. So I sort of limit the amount that I buy into that. Um, and I try and sort of just pivot and switch my focus onto what I can be doing to move in a forward motion. I'm not particularly disciplined when it comes to myself, which is why I'm so admire the fact that you and your husband did a movie. Because if you gave me a task, I will achieve it, I'll overachieve it, I'll have it in early, done. But when it's up to me, I'm quite badly disciplined in that, which is, I don't know why, like a lack of self-love or care or be botheredness, I don't know, but I am working on that and just trying to take the same care and grace and attitude and enthusiasm into my own stuff rather than having that layer of like, I don't want to do this. I want to go to $1 million set and it be exciting and work on that stuff. I don't want to put in the work to create my own stuff. And so that's been an ego thing that I'm getting over.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's a back myself thing. I'm not a great writer yet because I haven't put in my 10,000 hours. So I write something and I judge it. So it's about, I think this season I'm like, okay, cool, this is what it is. There is a writer's strike, there's not as much going on, but everyone's in the same boat. So how can I benefit? Because a lot of people did some great stuff in COVID and I sit there and go like, well, if I'd done it started 2 years ago, I'd be in a different. So it's kind of like I've got to have that attitude about it, like, okay, this is the climate, so what can I do?
So you're in a season of growth.
Working on it. I wish I wasn't. Can't we all just be in thrivey seasons? My
I know.
God,
I think we
ready
got to
now.
go through this one though to get to the next one, you
I
know?
know. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I also want to know if there was like something you wish you had known sooner or like done sooner.
Take improv. That's been so helpful and has helped me get a lot of jobs since I've been good at it. at improvising. I think that's one of the good things that I do get hired for now, is like being able to be funny and not judge what's coming out of my mouth and just commit. I loved my time at Groundlings, and I'd recommend that. Um, what else do I wish that I had known? I think that's probably the main thing, because I did notice a huge tidal shift once I had started doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. My big thing that I wish I had like picked up so much sooner in life, because I do a lot of writing. I wish I had read Save the Cat like when I was 22 years old and not 26. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, sure.
that book, like one, you learn a lot about writing and how to write a screenplay, but I also felt as an actor it like really helped me understand like this is where we're at in
Mm,
the story. So
mm,
like this is part of what your character is going through, like the hero's journey, like
mm,
this is where your character is at in this point in the movie.
mhm.
Like even if you get sides and you can see like what page number they're coming from in the scripture, like, oh, we're in Dark Night of the Soul right now. We're in like a pretty heavy part of the movie. Like,
Mhm.
so even though I may not have gotten to read the whole script, like I know where we are in
Mhm.
this story and I can make a more informed decision based on that.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
smart acting. That's a good one.
yeah. So I wish I had read that book like immediately. And honestly, I wish I had done The Artist's Way like right when I got out of college because it's like now as a 30-year-old, it's giving me so many tools that I'm like, God, I needed this 5 years ago.
Things come to you when you need them, though. It came at the
Yeah. So,
time, but yes, I hear you.
yeah,
Yeah,
those are
yeah.
some things. And then the last thing I want to know is like, what is the best advice anyone has ever given you?
Ooh. A lot. I think the most important one for me and the hardest one for me to actually take is to be where your feet are. I'm always 10 steps ahead. I really have to, especially when on set, like remember to enjoy it, remember to take photos, like, yeah, be where I'm supposed to be. Don't be trying to do other jobs or other emails, especially when you're acting, because most of your life you spend unemployed. So to enjoy it when it happens. And I think that also comes with some lessons that I've learned of too, of like having boundaries. Like if you are going through some trauma or some disruption in your personal life and things like that, like to not allow it to take away from those moments where you do get to be an actor and go to set and stuff, because that's magic. Like that's what we live for. So but yeah, the advice was from someone called David Rye, and he is a football coach. And so I think he just sees me flitting around, and I'm physically flitting around, and sometimes I really am just mentally, spiritually kind of flitting around a bit, keeping busy doing everything. And so I do need to remind myself to like be where I am sometimes. Um,
I love that so much. Like, I fall victim of like, oh, I should be here. And what a beautiful reminder. Like, but you're not. You're right here. What
and
are we
there's
going to do
beauty
with
in that
it?
too. We can
Yeah.
still want to be somewhere else, but yeah,
Yeah.
still.
I
It's
really
just
love
the
that.
whole journey destination thing is like so tough for me. I'm like, rather be at the destination, thanks. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Like, I'd like to just wake up there. That'd be great.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not afraid to work hard to get there, but would like to be there now. So
Yeah. Like, can we
but
just shake like the magic 8 ball and it says yes?
yes, totally, 100%. So I'm working on that. But yeah, what about you? Lastly, quickly, I know we got limited time.
When I left for college, I went to college in New York City. My mom like put a little card under my pillow and I found it like the day she'd like flown home. And like the whole card makes me cry because it was my mom and I are like best friends. So like saying goodbye was very hard. Not
Yeah,
goodbye, but like moving away.
yeah.
And she wrote in my card, I went to like a very competitive cut program school. And I was pretty like freaked out. And she wrote, anything worth having is worth working for. I was like, mm.
Goosey, that's so nice.
And I remember it all the time because like
Yeah.
some I'm in a season where I'm like, God, this is just so hard. It's so hard
Mhm.
to like keep restarting, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, if you really want it, you got to work hard. So,
Yeah. I have nothing but full faith in you, my friend. You
Right
deserve
back at
all
you.
the delight that is coming to you, and I know it is.
Thank you,
Thank
sister.
you for having me. I'm so grateful.
Yes, where can people find you?
On this couch, probably. No, on the internet. So my Instagram is at Kim Crossman. My Facebook is / Kim Crossman 24. I just joined TikTok. I'm not any good at it. You can find me there at Kim Crossman. But yeah, otherwise, probably hanging out with you doing something fun.
Yeah, and she has a podcast, and it's called Pretty Depressed. You should definitely give it a listen.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. I love you.
Love you too.
Okay. There's so much I loved about this chat. But be where your feet are is so beautiful and so relevant in my life right now. And I think it's a really good reminder for all of us. Like, this is the moment. This is the moment you're in right here, right now. This is what's happening. And like, we can't go back. We can't go forward. We have to just be present in where our feet are right now. So I hope that wisdom like affected you like it affected me. It makes me feel weirdly comforted and like, this is what's happening and I have control of that. So yeah. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you found that as inspiring as I did, and we'll see you on the next one.